Hello, Ghoul Fiends, and welcome to another episode of the Horror Ghouls podcast. I'm T,
I'm Megan.
and today we embark on a journey into the bone chilling universe of the Conjuring franchise. Now, there are three main films, including The Conjuring from 2013, The Conjuring 2 from 2016, both directed by James Wan, and The Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It from 2021, directed by Michael Chavez. These films bring to life the spine tingling investigations of real life demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, portrayed by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Set in 1981, The Devil Made Me Do It plunges us into the um, horrifying events surrounding the exorcism of young David Glatzel in Brookfield, Connecticut. As the unimaginable unfolds, Arnie Johnson's fateful decision to invite the demon into his own body sets off a chain of chilling events. So join us as we delve into the depths of terror, uncovering the sinister truth behind a series of events that led to the first American murder trial claiming demonic possession as its defense, with the Warrens at the forefront. So brace yourselves. You're in for a journey into true horror. Ooh.
That was so natural. I was like, "Ooh." I'm excited. It's
Yes,
gonna be good.
this is going to be good. This is a second watch for both of us. So,
That is correct. I actually didn't know that James Wan did not direct this one.
yeah, he wrote on this one, but he didn't direct it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things are kind of coming together for me a little more. We'll
It
get more
makes
into my opinion on that
I'm
later.
about to
Yep.
say it makes sense.
It does make sense. It makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, so we'll go ahead and jump right in. So, as you can see, we're kind of starting with a bang and a heart attack because demonic David isn't messing around. He tried to stop Ed's heart during the exorcism, causing him to suffer a severe heart attack. So we can assume that Ed was rushed to the hospital while Lorraine waited for news of his condition. So at this point, we get the title card before the story shifts. Arnie, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say there's so much that happens
Yeah,
before we get the title screen. It's basically just like you're saying, the whole exorcism scene. It's action packed. It does start off
yeah.
awesome. That it's like you almost forget that it didn't actually really start because there is the title sequence that comes up and you're like,
That's
oh my God, we didn't even really start yet. Okay.
That's true. And that whole
Yeah.
exorcism sequence is literally like it's 5 minutes or so long, but it feels like you've watched so much
Yeah.
before you literally see the title.
Yeah. There's a lot.
So it's definitely a lot.
I agree.
Um, so Arnie is hanging out with his girlfriend Debbie, who happens to be the sister of demonic David. And so they're living rent free on top of this kennel owned by a man named Bruno in exchange for Debbie running the business. And it's a cute little kennel. Like they have little dogs in there and it's a little land outside. So I'm like,
Lots of
okay.
dogs. Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad, living in a place like that and just feeding the dogs. Um,
Peaceful to an
yeah,
extent. Yeah.
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 So Arnie does seem relatively normal considering he invited a demon into him. But he's trying to convince Debbie to skip town with him now that her brother is out of the woods. She does tell him she'll think about it before heading down to the kennel because they're going out. So she wants to give Bruno some little tips on taking care of the dogs while she's gone. So before Arnie leaves, Bruno does ask him, like, hey, I need you to fix my radio. And Arnie says he will later. And then the two go off to Debbie's parents' house for a good old BBQ, which they look like they had some pretty good food there. I'm not mad at it.
Me either. No, I was looking when they came out with their little trays. I was like, what's happening here?
Right?
Why was I not invited to this?
Exactly.
But yeah.
So this is basically where we start to see some strange stuff happening with Arnie. He goes into the house to pick up some meat for the barbecue, and he follows a mouse to a hole in the wall outside of the room where the exorcism occurred. And after staring into this literal glory hole in the wall, waiting for something to poke him in the eye, Arnie is attacked by a woman. And in reality, no one's there.
Right.
So
That
the
freaked me out
position,
so much though. Like when
the
there was
suspense.
there's a hole in the wall. So okay, so there's a mouse hole That's like eye level. So that's weird to start, right? Like that's
Yeah.
weird to start. But then it kind of looked like gooey a little
Yeah. It was
on one side.
kind
Like,
of pulsating
but
and
like black gooey.
yeah, like tarish stuff coming
Right.
out.
So there's the whole, and he's like,
Right. And
what?
I was really waiting for something to poke him in the eye both times.
Like a knife, something.
Or a finger or some other digit. I don't know. So
Just imagine, wouldn't that be weird though? Like if you're like a creepy person, whatever, a creeper, and someone is checking out a hole and you're just like, boop.
boop, right in their eye.
Okay.
Listen, you stick your eye there, you deserve it. Okay.
You get what you deserve. Yeah, I agree. I agree with
Yeah.
you. I'm with you.
Don't go putting your eye up to strange holes. Okay.
That's a good rule for life.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes,
agree.
absolutely.
Totally.
So the story at this point does go back to the hospital where Lorraine has been stationed since Ed was admitted. And we do get some insight into how Ed and Lorraine met. They met at 17, and he was an usher at a movie theater where her and her friends were going. And they kind of got together, and Ed took Lorraine out for a little ice cream date. They went to a gazebo. It started raining, and this all started their romance. So Father Gordon, who was also he's close with the Warrens and he was also involved with the exorcism, suggests that she go home, but Lorraine refuses because she's like, it is my home, which
She
is so cute.
she did say it pretty much just like that.
Mhm.
Their story was very sweet though. Like in the midst of all this horribleness and
Yeah.
you know, weird eye holes and stuff. There's this beautiful story. It is my home. Yes,
Yes, it was a
that's
very cute
beautiful.
moment.
Hmm.
So,
Totally.
so at this point in the story, Arnie is having more and more hallucinations as the demon continues to infect him. He's in this scene, he's about 15 feet off the ground on the job where it looks like he's cutting down some tree branches from an overgrown tree. So he's struggling to start his chainsaw, but at the same time, we see the same creepy woman that attacked him earlier in the window behind him. And for whatever reason, he has a sixth sense, like something's there, and he slowly turns around, but he doesn't see anything. And then suddenly his chainsaw starts up, causing him to freak out and drop his actual running chainsaw, nearly killing someone. So,
Yeah. That was weird
yeah.
to me though, because if you looked in the beginning, not to poke holes, but not the beginning, but when he's in the tree, the
Mhm.
chainsaw is hanging from him by a rope.
Yes.
So it's like all of a sudden,
It
it
just,
it came on side and then he dropped whatever.
right.
It's whatever, but I'm just
That
saying.
that was an interesting like loophole because I thought about that too, and I was just like, how did that happen? Did he accidentally cut it with the chainsaw, like when he kind of dropped it and it just cut? But why didn't he
Stands
cut
to
his legs
reason.
off? Why didn't he cut
Yeah.
off his arm or something? Like, but luckily nobody was hurt.
Nobody was
But
hurt.
they did, I'm pretty sure they told Arnie to go home because he did go home.
They
And he
were
still
unhappy. Nobody
yeah,
was hurt, but they were not happy about
not at all.
it.
Not at all.
No.
So he does go home. And when he gets there, he does tell Debbie that he's sick. And Bruno asks Arnie, like, hey, come have some beers and fix my radio. And Arnie does say no, but Bruno persists. And he has absolutely no idea what's in store for him. Okay.
Sure doesn't.
So finally, after what seems to be a few days, Ed regains consciousness and he immediately drops a bombshell on Lorraine before he says hi to his daughter, who is also in the room. Before he says hi to Lorraine, he immediately tells her that the demon that was in David was passed to Arnie because in the beginning scene, um, after demonic David tries to take his heart out of his chest, he does see Arnie asking for the demon. So he's the only person that noticed it. So at this point, Lorraine wastes no time and immediately tries to warn Debbie that Arnie might be on the brink of doing something sinister. So back at
Back at the ranch. Yeah.
pretty much back at the ranch, we get back to Bruni, Arnie and Bruno.
That's their celebrity couple name.
Pretty much. Um, so Arnie fixes the radio, and Bruno turns the music on, and he does seem kind of drunk, and it's
He sure
loud.
does. Yes.
Yeah, Arnie is clearly in a daze in this point, and again, the music is so loud, no one can hear the phone ringing. So Bruno starts dancing with Debbie, and she's kind of saying stop, and he ignores her, and she eventually gives in, saying, "I'll dance with you, like just this one dance," and they're dancing more than an arm's length away from each other. But in Arnie's mind, as he's hallucinating, he sees what looks like Bruno and Debbie dancing very close and laughing, suggesting that something else could be going on between them.
Hmm.
So at this point, after not getting through to the kennel, Lorraine calls the police to warn them about the impending tragedy at the kennel. At the same time, an almost completely possessed Arnie watches Bruno turn into some monster and start attacking Debbie. Now, from the viewer's perspective, Bruno isn't a monster at all. And as Arnie starts dragging Debbie away, she's asking him, like, what are you doing? She's really confused. And
Yeah.
this scene is so chaotic because the music is blaring, the dogs are barking, Debbie is asking him over and over, he's okay. And like Arnie is just really in a whole full blown panic.
Yeah.
And he's just descending deeper and deeper into the possession. So suddenly the music does stop, and Arnie sees a monstrous Bruno running on all fours towards him. He grabs a knife that had fallen to the floor and he stabs Bruno 22 times.
22 times. A little bit of overkill.
Just a
Um,
bit.
they did. I thought it was interesting the music choice here because it was Call Me by Blondie,
Yes.
which is like a weird, like you don't really think of that as inspiring a brutal murder, you know.
True.
But it was a creepy, I don't know, just the way it was done, like with the song and the guy on the all fours where I was like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that
It
was
definitely was atmospheric with the music. It was kind
yes.
of it was haunting. Yeah, for whatever reason, never hear that song sing again.
No.
Um
No, every time I hear that for the rest of my life, I'm just gonna my eyes are gonna get real big and I'm gonna get quiet.
think about Bruni. So
I will
yeah.
think about Bernie forever, always.
so so Arnie leaves the kennel and wanders down the road in a possessed daze, just
As
as
one
a
does,
right,
as you do.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just as a cop passes by, and I don't know if this was the one sent due to Lorraine's warning, but he's late anyway. The cop gets out and asks Arnie if he's okay, and Arnie slowly turns, revealing Bruno's blood all over him, and not really remembering what happened. He says, "I think I hurt somebody," because at first, like I said, he was in a possessed daze. His eyes were kind of glazed over, but when he
Yeah.
turns around, he's himself again. Um, and to let you know, all this happened, and we weren't even 30 minutes in to this movie.
Action packed.
But don't worry,
Don't
because
worry.
we have nearly an hour and a half left to this movie. This was a long one, people.
This was a long movie. I think, what did we say? I said it was a bit of a slug to
Yeah,
not give away too much of my opinion, but yes, it was a
yeah,
bit of a slug. Yes.
yeah. We'll tell you how we felt at the end
I'm
of
happy to
this.
always tell you all my thoughts and feelings, but
Absolutely,
we're
yeah.
gonna progress. We're gonna get there.
Yes. So old Arnie is in the slammer. And Ed, fresh out the hospital in a wheelchair, and Lorraine, along with a different priest, don't know who this priest is, and Debbie sit around the table trying to provoke the demon to come out to prove that Arnie is possessed. But unfortunately, his demon is on a staycation, which makes it appear like Arnie murdered Bruno on his own. So the Warrens have the idea to go to Arnie's lawyer to plead his case. And they do cite that there are two other times that demonic possession was used as a defense. But the lawyer is like, I'm not convinced. And she's really not willing to use demonic possession as a reason. But that is until she goes to the Warrens for dinner and is able to see their collection of possessed items, including Annabelle. And it's funny because the screen flips to a court scene. An old girl looks like she's definitely seen a ghost. She
She's
she
seen some stuff. Yeah.
yeah, she looks like she's seen some stuff, but um she does say that Arnie will plead not guilty by reason of demonic possession, making this the first case of its kind in American legal history. So the prosecution wants to go for the death penalty, and this gives Ed and Lorraine a lot of work to do because they have to prove this demonic possession now. So
Yes.
they then decide to review this case from the beginning.
Go back to the
And
origin. They
yes,
wanted to trace the origin. So now it's almost like they're like this isn't gonna be how I want it to sound, but I was gonna say like demon lawyers, right? Where it's like they have to prove the burden of doubt essentially is on them. to
Right.
prove. So now they're like, how are we gonna piece this together? The
Which
one
is
thing I'm
hard.
gonna say, oh, it's so hard because if you can't see something, how do you prove it? But
Hmm.
I love that we had the little Annabelle throw out there when he was like, Ed was like, come to our house and we'll show you Annabelle. So a fact for real life, because you mentioned before that Ed and Lorraine Warren are real people. They
They
were,
are.
in fact, a demonologist and psychic. Allegedly, that's what they claimed. Their house in Connecticut um did actually have a huge, I'm pretty sure it was the basement. I've read a lot about the Warrens because I've been fascinated by them for a long time. Um, Full of artifacts they recovered from cases they worked on. And Annabelle really did Annabelle, which was actually a Raggedy Ann doll, not a
Yes. Not that
whatever
creepy doll that they have in the movies.
scariest doll they have in the movies, in a case. So they really did keep those things in their house because they felt that it was safer for them to have it and it be protected than in the hands of the wrong people. So just a little true fun fact for you all, um, in the midst of our movie facts. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. And they used to give tours of that area, but they stopped.
Did they stop? Because the son-in-law actually took it over for a while because both of them have passed away at this point,
Hmm.
Ed and
I think
Lorraine.
Lorraine died in 2019, was it?
Yeah, not even that long
Yeah.
ago. But the son-in-law was. I know they had stopped at least for a while, but I'm gonna look it up because I would like to go
Yeah,
there.
I would definitely go because I definitely
Road
would love to
trip.
see some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't want to
uh,
like touch it. I just want to look at it, you know.
I don't want to touch it.
I don't want to
Uh,
either. No,
mm-mm.
thank you. I won't even look at Annabelle in the eyes. Like, no,
You're right.
no. I'll just pass her. Like, respect. Having a lovely day, Annabelle.
Right. So since Ed and Lorraine are going back to the beginning, the story rewinds 5 months to when the Gladsons first moved into their new home. And David is carrying a box and he enters his chosen room and finds a waterbed, which I haven't seen a waterbed probably since the 80s.
No.
So he flops onto it, only to be startled when a face briefly appears beneath the surface. And he decides he's going to get off the bed and he starts backing up. But suddenly, a hand bursts through the bed, grabbing his arm and spraying water everywhere. And the moment passes really quickly, leaving David soaking wet and the bed sputtering water. And honestly, this scene kind of gave me Nightmare on Elm Street vibes.
A little
Just a
bit.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So nobody believes David at all. And Lorraine, at this present time, is using her psychic abilities to visualize the past and describes the scene to Ed and Debbie. They do inspect the room and find like a burnt spot. It's also like Megan said earlier with the glory hole having some like goopy stuff on it. This
Yes.
dark spot that's under a rug where the waterbed was before has that same goopy stuff.
Yeah.
And this prompts them to investigate further. And Lorraine has to crawl under the house to investigate.
You couldn't pay me enough. You could not pay me enough because when they show the crawl space, it's like the outside basement where it has the
Yeah,
doors that are like leaned against the house. So they open it, and initially, before she goes crawling in there, it looks like it's almost like full size to me.
it does. I
It
thought
looked
so
full
too.
size, so it looked like you could walk down and like maybe walk through it. No, this I almost said this bitch. We love Lorraine, so nothing, nothing,
Right,
nothing against her. She goes in there and she has to crawl. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, and you can't, when you're like that, you can't like defend yourself, even if there's just like a raccoon or
right.
something. Like, what are you gonna do? Punch it in the face? Like you're crawling around. So yes, that was very creepy. Lots of spider webs, bugs.
There were rats down
There
there,
were rats down there. So yeah, that was
which was
creepy.
gross.
Gross.
But after a while, she crawls through and she discovers a witch's totem, which basically looks like the skull of something on, like, I don't know. I feel like it was like a cross or something, but
I couldn't really
it's
determine either, right? It was
yeah,
hard to really suss out what it was because it almost looked like a partial skull and then something
yeah.
behind it, and then you saw kind of like the jawbone. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I
I
was
don't
about
know.
to say the jaw was like the most prominent thing because I remember seeing the teeth, but and it looks like
Yeah.
it has horns or something. But I'm sure
No.
you guys can look up a witch's totem if you want to see what it looks like.
That's what the internet is for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the witch's totem is evidence of a satanic ritual, and that is what actually cursed David. So Lorraine takes a picture of it because she's not going to touch it. And that's so they can study it and possibly figure out who was behind this curse. So a few days later, Father Gordon and Drew, who records all of the Warrens' cases, he's always like got a camera with them and stuff, and you'll see him throughout all the movies, well, most of the movies. Um, they join Ed, Lorraine, and Debbie at the Glatzel's house. And Ed states that usually with these rituals, a demon possesses someone, that person takes a life, and then the demon leaves the host, which does explain the staycation situation with Arnie's demon. So Father Gordon then mentions a priest, retired priest, basically named Kastner, and he might be able to help them. Kastner used to work in the past to expose cults, and he worked with one specifically called the Disciples of the Ram, and he tried to learn their ways and try to help them. So
Interesting.
yeah, so the Warrens take the trip and they go and meet with Kastner, who seems to now be an ordinary chicken farmer with chicken shit on his hands.
Ordinary, yo.
And yeah,
Yeah.
this scene is interesting because Ed puts out his hand to shake his hand, and Kastner refuses, and he has this really weird pause. He's just looking. I've got chicken shit on my hands,
He got
and
a weird
like
accent.
right, but this is after he offered them omelets. It's weird. So
Yeah, he's a little socially awkward, I would say. But the standing and staring a lot, like, because they walked up on him in his front yard. Like,
they
if I walk
did
up to someone, I introduce myself, hey, how are you? I'm so and so, whatever. We're wondering if you can help us with the thing. And someone's just like, I'm rethinking my decisions in that
absolutely.
moment. Yeah. So that,
Absolutely. But I mean, I'm
whatever.
sure Ed and Lorraine have seen way worse. So I'm sure this ordinary chicken farmer doesn't scare them too much.
No, but at the
So
same time, he's like, yeah, come into my house, I'd be like, maybe
maybe
not.
not. Come
Maybe
and talk
let's
right
sit.
here.
We could talk out in the yard by the chickens and the
Right.
chicken poop. That's fine.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Exactly. So, I mean, Kastner seems off like an old recluse who wants to raise his chickens in peace and offer strangers omelets.
Yep.
That's all. So, but they show him a picture of the totem, and after that, Kastner warns Ed and Lorraine to forget it and leave it alone. And he explains that an occultist purposely left the totem under the Glatzel's home, setting everything we know so far in motion. And he invites the Warrens into his basement, which immediately gives Lorraine the ick. She's like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Her little spidey senses were tingling. But Kastner has a collection similar to the Warrens. He's collected all types of totems and memorabilia from his time studying the Disciples of the Ram. And he explains how the cult came into power and how dangerous it is,
Yeah.
warning that a master Satanist should not be taken lightly. So they shouldn't fool around with this person. And he says that in order to save Arnie, this may cost the Warrens everything they have, which is really ominous.
Super ominous. I do want to say, although I'm not a proponent of going into a stranger's basement, that was a beautiful room. It was beautiful. All the stuff that was around, I would have been very about it. And that's when he would
Yeah.
have been able to tape my mouth and my hands because I'd be looking at all the stuff. And that would be the end of me right there. That would be it. That's all.
Yeah,
All for me.
it was a really it was very nice. It was like an old library of creepy things.
It was
And
like, so like the Beauty and the Beast library that we all know and love and we want to live in. It's like
yes.
that for goths.
Yeah,
Yes.
you could say that.
Yes. It's the best goth library I've ever seen. But yeah. No, but he's so creepy. So the pros and cons, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's a little off.
a little bit, a
Um,
little bit.
so we then get a glimpse of someone, perhaps the master Satanist, performing a ritual before the story takes us back to Arnie. He's cleaning up what seems to be an infirmary, but his hallucinations are suddenly coming back. A man that's in a bed, he sits up and starts singing a song to Arnie before another man with crazy eyes attacks him. But again, we see Arnie fall and no one's there. The one person in the bed is still in the bed. And this leads to Arnie being sedated and restrained.
Right. Did you notice the song that the person was singing?
I did notice it, but I don't remember it.
It was Call Me by Blondie.
Shut up. It was the same song?
He was singing it real creepy and slow. He was like, "Color me your color, baby." Like it was,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It was like, you know, when they do that with horror movie trailers, like they take a popular song and they slow it down and sometimes they make it like dissonant a little bit.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they change the key to like a half, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically what they did.
That's
That's
why I
the
didn't
thing.
catch it.
I'm a big 80s music fan, so well, for me, they could have sang like any 80s song, and I'm like, oh, I know that. But it was the same one as before, just to tie it
So
all together nice.
so
Yeah.
we have a theme here with the call me.
Call
So
me.
yeah. But that's interesting. I didn't know that at
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
So
Creepy.
Arnie gets restrained, and we then get another glimpse of the ritual space, and it shows that same person walking away, probably pretty happy with their actions at this point. So
Would have been funny if it was skipping,
just skipping
right?
away. I did that.
That would have changed the tone of the movie for sure.
it,
I would
it
have,
really would.
that would have made me laugh out loud for sure.
That would have been good. It would have been very campy and
I
out of
do love
place, and
camp.
I would have
I
laughed.
I do love camp. Yes.
So, a lead then takes the Warrens to Massachusetts to investigate the murder of Katie Lincoln and the disappearance of Jessica Strong, who were best friends. And this may tie into what's going on with Arnie. So, a detective tells Ed and Lorraine that Katie was stabbed 22 times, just like Bruno. And at Jessica's house, a totem was found similar to what Lorraine saw at the Glatzel house. So the Warrens ask if they can access the case files, but the detective is not at all interested in helping the Warrens until Lorraine offers to do her psychic thing and find Jessica. I think she does freak out the detective a little bit as she proves her abilities to him picking out the knife that was used in the murder.
That was
And
cool.
it was because he definitely didn't believe. He was a doubting Thomas for
No,
sure.
I wish that's something I could do, man, because I love the way that so he lays out the knives. There's like three, there was three,
Yep,
right? He lays them out, and while they're doing that, and Lorraine's quiet. Like she seems
pensive.
she's strong. Like she's a strong lady, but she's more of like passive. Like Ed's more definitely more of the dominant force. So he's like arguing. He's like, my wife is not a sideshow attraction. And she's like, it's this one.
Yep.
It's that one.
Just
And they were
it,
like, that's just this
it was good. It was luck,
she only had three choices. It's fine.
right?
But yeah, that was
But
funny.
yeah, so she definitely does that.
Yep.
And so the detective is impressed. He's freaked out, but impressed. But he still won't give up the goods until
Nope.
she finds Jessica. So back at the Slammer, ex demonic David and Debbie visit Arnie. And to be quite honest here, Arnie looks like death. Like he's casket ready at this point.
He looks terrible.
He's pale, his eyes are red, and he seems like he's anemic in need of an iron infusion, to be quite honest.
Big time. Big time.
So Debbie's questioning him, like, how are you? Are you okay? And Arnie's lying, saying that he's fine. But David starts spilling the tea on how it feels to have the demon inside of him.
Yep.
And you can see on Arnie's face that everything ex demonic David is saying is resonating with him. So he, David knows exactly how Arnie feels. It's a feeling of isolation. You're always cold, and you can definitely see that Arnie is in a personal hell right now.
Yeah, I would say so. It's
Yeah,
funny that she's like, are you okay? Like, just look at him.
right.
Does
He
he look
looks sick.
okay?
He looks like a walking corpse.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing. But but yeah, the story at that part at this point takes us to the woods where Lorraine channels the last moments of Katie's life. And in this scene, Jessica is giving Katie a gift, and it seems like the pair are more than best friends. There's a little like romance here.
A little sprinkle. They
Yeah.
didn't play into it a lot, but it
No.
was like, I made you a bracelet or whatever. It was
Yeah,
something
she
like
got
that,
her a
right?
bracelet
Yeah.
from the Mayfair or something like that.
And they were like, that's still a thing. And none of us know what that is because they never explained it. They're like, I didn't know that was still a plate. Like, and that it was just for no
Unless
reason. I don't know.
unless the Mayfair is something like like when they celebrate like spring or something,
Like
and
the
they
maypole.
yes,
Mhm.
that's in my head. That's what I'm thinking of,
Um,
but I doubt it.
I feel like
Uh,
that's so old-timey that we would need a little more. Like if you're going to use
context.
that, like give us a little more because I don't know what you're talking
True,
about.
because this
But
was 1981, and neither
yeah,
one of us were born by at this time,
no.
so we have no
We're
idea what
far
that
too
is.
young to know about that.
True. So, so Lorraine is gesturing the movements that Jessica is taking as she begins to kill Katie. And Ed and the detective start following Lorraine as she frantically runs through the woods, just like Jessica had, until
Ooh.
she ends up at a cliff. As she breaks out of her psychic trance just as Ed reaches her. But as she turns to face him, like a charred looking hand reaches up and grabs Lorraine's ankle, dragging her off the cliff. But Ed dives for her, grabs her hand, and pulls her to safety. And it's a little bit of a heart pounding scene.
A little bit.
Um,
That one did
yeah,
get me, the hand shooting out. I was like, oh
yeah.
my gosh. Because it was definitely
It's
like a
like a
zombie,
yeah,
like it's clearly a
a
dead
dead hand. Dead,
hand.
yeah, yeah. It's got that dead zombie look to it for
Yeah, it
sure.
does. Mm.
So the detective reaches them, and Lorraine cries that basically Jessica plunged to her death off the cliff, and she's there. And a body is recovered, and the detective at this point agrees to give the Warrens the case files that they need to help Arnie. Now, there's a point to note about this scene. A paramedic gives Ed a pill, it's a vasodilator, since his blood pressure was high from chasing Lorraine through the woods. Too much excitement for this old man. So Ed mentions that he's familiar with the pills, but he left his at home.
Mm.
Lorraine looks at him like she's gonna burn his eyebrows off. Okay,
Typical man. Just
right?
saying.
Sorry, man.
I'm not
But
sorry. I'm not.
but the paramedic suggests that he needs to keep them on him from now on. But just keep this point in mind because we'll definitely revisit it a little later.
Foreshadowing. Yeah.
So, after an exciting trip to the woods, Ed and Lorraine receive a call from a very distressed Debbie. She tells them that Arnie's demon is back from his staycation and is telling Arnie to unalive himself. So Ed tells her to contact the prison chaplain, Father Newman, so that he can put Arnie on an unaliving watch. But they get sudden static on the line, and the call is dropped. Now,
Yeah.
at the prison, a priest who I have to assume was Father Newman. I'm not sure, but I'm
Makes
assuming that
sense.
it is.
We have a lot of
Yeah,
priests in this movie. It's hard to keep track of all of them.
right.
Yeah.
So he gives Arnie a bottle of holy water to protect himself. And this is honestly bringing a knife to a gunfight. Like it's not going to help.
I thought
Um,
that's it. Like he handed it to him. I was like, what are you gonna do with that?
right.
Like,
It's like you're giving him holy water. You're not even giving him a Bible or a cross or a rosary or anything. Just
no, because
some
even
holy
when
water.
we see, because of course, we've seen throughout this movie exorcism, like we've already seen it. And also, if you are watching these movies, you've probably already seen other exorcism movies. And we know that even in the heat of an exorcism, that holy water,
Does nothing.
it just hurts. They're like, ow,
It gives him a little
ow.
sunburn. A
Yeah.
little sunburn. Nothing. A little aloe can't help.
No, no, it's just a little something. So he's like, well, here you go. Good luck, I guess. Like I don't.
Right.
That's all.
So Arnie uses the water because he's stressed out. So he uses the holy water to make a protective circle around himself and sits in it, beginning to pray.
That confused me also though, because if you are also the problem,
You're trapping
how are
yourself.
you in the circle? Like the circle's supposed to keep you safe inside the circle, but if the problem is within you and the circle, no,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that you know what's crazy. I think that there was a disconnect in understanding exactly what was going on. So Arnie, not realizing that he's the problem,
That makes
is
sense.
thinking because he's getting attacked from
He doesn't
outside.
want it to come back like he thinks maybe it's still an external force. That makes
Right.
sense. That makes
Right.
sense.
So he's trying to protect himself, not realizing that that's not going to protect him. And
No.
also not realizing that curses are immune to holy water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, bet
yeah.
the calls are
So
coming from inside the house, Arnie. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Ed and Lorraine spend some time at this point trying to figure out what's going on. The demon was summoned not of its own will, but through a curse, and curses can be broken. So Lorraine does explain that she had a vision back at the Glatzel house when she touched David that could have connected her to the person behind the curse. And she believes that if the body that was found is actually Jessica, then the connection created through the curse could still be open. And this alludes to Lorraine being able to use this connection to possibly find who's behind the
Right.
curse. So, what do you think they do next? They break into a funeral home. Yeah.
That's the thing that you do. I'm singing so much today. I'm sorry if you don't like it, everyone, but whatever. Um, I thought that was funny. They're like, oh, knocking on the door. Hey, can you let us in? And then Ed was like, meh, and just busted in with his cane because he is free of the wheelchair now. He's free of the
Yes.
wheelchair. He does have a little cane though, little residual effects from his
A
heart
little limp.
attack. A little
Yeah.
bit. Nothing serious. He's doing all right.
Yeah. But when
Yeah.
they break in, he says they'll leave a note. So that makes up for it.
Well, that's not all they're gonna have to leave a note about. Not
Mm,
just the door.
yeah, no, not just the door.
Not
So
just the door.
Ed and Lorraine go in to this funeral home and they find the morgue section and they find Jessica's body identified by toe tag.
They did, and I just want to add, this is where I did note, I wrote exactly, I'll read word for word. They go to look at Jessica's bloaty, waterlogged corpse.
That is exactly
I'm nothing if not a wordsmith.
that.
Yeah.
X bars. Okay.
Yes. Please continue.
So I don't understand. She's just laid out on a slab with a sheet over it. And I don't know what kind of funeral home this is, but just leaving a body like this
No,
out overnight seems a little irresponsible to
they're
me.
usually in the refrigerator part, but
Yeah.
especially if they're waterloggy, um, you I, I'm like, I'm trying to, I don't want to be super overly graphic, but if your body is exposed to elements like that, like, and the decay process is already kind of like a little different than normal, but sped up,
Right.
you know, you definitely don't want to like unrefrigerate that. You don't want to
Yeah.
leave it out overnight, you
It's like
know?
leaving dead fish out overnight. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
smelly.
Just
It's
slap
smelly.
that in the refrigerator. Just
Right.
slap it in
Exactly.
there. Yeah, yeah.
So I
There's
don't
more than
know.
one body that's not refrigerated in there too. So I don't know if this place is up to code, you
Yeah.
know? I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
think,
a little worried about that,
a
but
little worried. They got like a D from like whatever commission regulates that. Probably
right.
don't take your people there
Not at
for
all.
your funeral arrangements, but
That was my thought too, to be quite honest. Like, do not bring your family members to this place
don't.
because
They
it's
just leave them out.
right, just
They get
sitting
all
out overnight.
smelly. No,
No, not nice at all.
it's not great. It's not.
No.
Mm-mm.
So Lorraine at this point takes Jessica's hand, and after a few minutes of nothing, she does make the connection. And in the upside down now, because she's in the Stranger Things upside down,
It is essentially the upside down, yes.
Lorraine is now walking through an unknown place and describing what she sees to Ed. She hears a train before seeing an altar with 12 black candles in a circle. And Ed is already really disturbed by this, and he tells Lorraine to come back, but she says she can't. Now, at this point in the movie, as a watcher, you know something eerie is about to happen. The camera shows us that on one of the walls, there's a timer for the lights, and it's just ticking away with a large body under a sheet just out of focus behind it. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, this place really doesn't believe in securing bodies. They're just bodies
No.
just laying out everywhere.
Everywhere.
So Lorraine realizes that she's seeing through the eyes of the woman who's performing the satanic ritual, and she's trying to reach Arnie so that she can complete the curse. This scene flips back and forth between Arnie in the prison and the woman as she controls Arnie, making him crush the holy water bottle in his hand and use a shard of glass to draw some lines on his wrist.
Hmm.
Um, but before the woman can complete it, Lorraine disrupts the ritual, stopping Arnie from fully hurting himself. So, right here in this moment, we really see how powerful Lorraine is because her command not only took the woman by surprise, but it blew out the candles like they were on a birthday cake and like nearly tossed the ritual book off the altar.
It blew some stuff off the altar too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it
Like it
did.
wasn't, it just was like, so even, yeah, even in that moment, I was like, oh, damn, Lorraine's like, because she screamed too. It wasn't like she was just like, stop. She was like, stop. Like
Yeah,
she,
she was commanding with
yeah,
some holy words or something.
right, 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 right.
And I normally write these things down, but I didn't write this part down. But,
It
you
was so,
know,
there was so much in the moment too that
it
I was like, I
was
didn't want to lose it by being like, she said,
right. But
yeah,
like it was akin to if you guys have ever rode public transportation, like and got on a subway or some type of train, and if you stand too close to the edge, when it first comes up, that gust of wind hits
Oh
you,
yeah.
that gust of like old, dirty subway
I
air.
was gonna say that smelly air. It's like, whoo.
It smells like urine and body odor. And so like that gust hits the lady in her face.
The
So
subway dust hits her
yeah,
right in the
so it
face.
hits her
Yeah.
right in the face, and that's what she deserves for being an occultist. Okay,
That is what she deserves.
yeah,
What a
and
jerk.
so, um, but at this point, Lorraine is no longer seeing through the woman's eyes. She herself is standing face to face with the occultist,
Yeah.
and the occultist is stunned. She's like, "Hey, how did you do that?" Like she's kind of in awe that somebody was able to like bust in like Kool-Aid Man.
I did think that
Um,
was funny though too, where she's like, she wasn't even like, her attitude wasn't even anything crazy. She was just like, how are you doing this? Like
right,
kind of annoyed. And that
yeah,
was all she said to her. She didn't even say anything crazy like, wait, oh my gosh, who are you? She's just like, how are you doing this? What are you
right.
doing? Yeah.
So when she asked her that, Lorraine was like, by the power of good old God. She basically says her God is, helping her
Yeah.
through. But the connection now goes both ways, and it certainly puts the Warrens at the top of this lady shit list. Um,
Yes.
and if you remember the chicken farmer with the chicken shit on his hands,
Hmm.
Kastner, he did tell them that pursuing this could cost them everything. So
He did.
yeah. So now at this point, the timer finally goes out. Lorraine is still in the upside down, and the room goes completely dark. Ed flips on a flashlight. Don't know where that flashlight came from because I don't remember him walking in with
I
it. Like,
don't
yeah,
either because he just had the cane. Yeah. I'm like, wait a
yeah,
minute, where did it come from?
yeah.
I do want to say this is the moment. This movie in general didn't scare me. This was the moment where I started to get the heebie-jeebies. Though the minute the light went off and I knew he had to walk away from her, I was like, here we effing go. Here we
Absolutely.
go.
Absolutely. So Ed goes over to the light and he turns it back on, resetting the timer. But remember, there was a body over there. And at this point, the body that was there is no longer gone, and the sheet just kind of creepily falls to the ground. And this is why you need to lock your damn bodies up, okay? Because this wouldn't happen if you locked them up.
If
Don't
you
just leave them
just
sitting out.
refrigerated your corpses, then you wouldn't have to worry about them going
Right.
missing. I'm just
Exactly.
saying.
So, but honestly, they do a really good job of setting up the tension in this scene because all of the sound becomes like is removed from the scene
Yeah.
besides the faint ticking of the timer and Ed's breathing. And he slowly turns and we see the silhouette of a big reanimated corpse, which is that
Ugh.
big body that was on the slab. And Lorraine is also in this shot, but she's blurred by a plastic divider standing completely still next to Jessica's sheet covered body.
It was a great shot.
Yeah, it's an eerie sight
It's
and
really good. The
I
thing
love it.
for me, I don't know if I said this last episode. I know I've said this to you a million times. Creepy silhouette posture, like hunched over stuff, gets me in any movie that it appears in. So even seeing this, because it's like, I think, I'm not sure if you said the guy was facing away, the
Mhm.
corpse, the big one.
He
So it's
was.
facing away from him, but it's still like it's hunched. And I was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah. It's really creepy. Like
Yeah,
I can't imagine seeing that. I would definitely pass out, probably
I
pass
would
away at that.
lose my mind and never get it back. I would
Right?
just be done.
I'd end up being one of those corpses sitting out on a slab
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, somewhere.
Um, so the corpse starts moving slightly, like he's about to do the thriller dance. He's like ticking and stuff. And Ed is like, "Hey, Lorraine, you need to break this connection, baby. Come back." He's really like adamant, like you gotta come back, girl.
Yeah.
But Lorraine kind of tightens her grip on Jessica, and she gasps just as our big naked corpse snaps his entire body in the
Oh,
direction of Lorraine and begins to charge. And all you hear is the sound of heavy, wet feet slapping
ugh.
against the floor. And I just have to ask, why is this man wet? Like his body is glistening with sweat, like he just finished working out. I don't understand that.
He is built like a linebacker, I'll
He
say.
is.
That
He
maybe, I don't know.
is.
But yeah, I don't know. Because it's weird, because it was like, so we talked about Jessica, she was waterlogged, right? We know this, and from my beautiful words about her floaty waterlogged corpse. Anyway,
Yes.
but he was not, presumably, but he is moist.
He's definitely moist. I know. Listen. We're sorry for people who hate that word. That is a
I don't like
notoriously
that. I don't like that word either, but it's the best word for the situation, I feel like.
it
Because even
is
his hair, you know what
wet.
I mean? Like his
Yeah,
hair is wet and like super curly, you know?
yeah.
Like you just
Like he
get
just
out.
got out the
I was
shower.
gonna say, you just get out the shower and like your hair is like all scrunchy, like hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah, but he
it's
was running too, like
he
you
was
wouldn't.
charging.
And I know this is weird and like we don't expect corpses to move at all. We don't expect it. But if they were going to move, a full out run is certainly not what I would expect.
Not at all. Not at all.
Uh,
Yeah, maybe a little stagger, maybe a little
Yeah.
trot.
Like a leg drag, a
Right.
trot, a skip,
Maybe.
another skip,
Yeah.
but not a full out run. That was
No.
like,
Like his feet were hitting the ground like baloney slapping or something. I can't describe it any other way. It
ew.
just sounded like wet baloney, okay? It's just smack, 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 smack.
Wow. I'm never gonna be okay ever again.
That's a soundbite for you, okay? Um, baloney will never be the same. It's going to remind you of the
Ugh.
slapping feet of a big ass corpse, okay?
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
so,
Wow.
so as he's running over to Lorraine, Ed is able to pull Lorraine away in time and breaks the
Yes.
connection. And Big Man hits the floor hard, like boom.
He bonked his head on the corner of the slab. You just hear
Yeah,
bonk and he just goes down like a ton of bricks.
he does. But what's weird is that his eyes still shift over to Ed and Lorraine
Oh.
and looks at them. And Lorraine tells Ed that they've been made. Like,
Yeah, she's like, she knows about us. Like,
yeah.
ugh.
So very,
Like
very creepy scene.
it's very creepy, but then they just leave. So then I'm like, okay, so you broke in and now their corpses aren't where they left them.
Right.
And what are you gonna do? You're gonna leave a note like, sorry about your corpses and your
Right.
door.
Yeah, my bad.
Call us and we'll pay for it, but probably not. Like, I don't
Right. Because we don't live in this town, by the way.
no, but
Uh
also even if they were gonna clean it up, that's awkward. Like you take his hands, I'll take his feet, and you'd like drag him back
he's too
over.
damn heavy for that. Like
But
when we say this
also,
man is big, he's big.
and right, but then also like you break the connection, and like I get that. But I would still be concerned that he would just like pop up
Oh
again.
yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
I wouldn't be touching him. Like
No, I definitely wouldn't touch him. I would leave him
no,
right there in all his naked glory.
all his baloney feet glory.
Yes. So the Warrens do return to their own home with Drew and Debbie and the case files. I'm presuming a day later. Um, and Drew shares with them a book that he found while they were gone. Part of it is in Latin, and it looks like a big ritual book.
Hmm.
Part of it is in Latin, and Ed can make out some of the words, and basically he sees that the curse needs two sacrifices, one by red rum and the other one by unaliving. If you don't know what red rum is, look it up. Um,
The Shining. There's
yes,
another clue for you.
yes, yes. This book also gives Ed and Lorraine the key to ending the curse, which is destroying the altar where the ritual was performed. There is more to this text, but it's in Aramaic, and so it can't be read. Ed asked Lorraine, like, "Hey, do you remember anything so that they can find this place?" She says it was cold, there was water dripping, and she heard a muffled train.
Mm.
And Ed thinks that there might be a connection between David and Jessica. And just as he's standing up to look through the files, he passes out. So Ed wakes up a little later on in a bed and calls out to Lorraine. And as he walks out of the room and down the hall, it's starting to become evident that Ed might not be awake at all. Or he might be in some type of dream state, maybe,
Yeah.
because it's really quiet and no one is answering. And remember, it's Debbie, Drew, and Lorraine all in the house. And so why would it be dead quiet? Um, so he gets to the stairs, the end of the steps, and he sees that his front door is open. It looks like there's a totem on the door. Lorraine's rosary is laying on the ground in front of the door, and there are muddy footprints around. Ed turns around and we see the occultist standing in their dining room, just kind of flipping through their stuff.
Go through
She's
their
like,
mail.
right. She's like, you got some great stuff here, boy.
She's
Um,
like, she's like, ooh, I love the catalog for BJ's.
right,
Cool. Yeah,
right.
very
Oh man,
nosy.
I have a dirty mind. That was a horrible thing to say.
The
So
wholesale store.
thank you. Um, so
Get it together,
I
everybody.
know, I know. So so after a brief exchange, she disappears, and
Yes.
our big naked corpse is back, slapping his baloney feet against the ground to
How did
confront
he get
Ed.
there? Did he walk all the way like Michael Myers from the first one? He just
Right,
showed up. Someone brought him on the back of their motorcycle. What happened?
right.
What happened?
He just shows up and
He's there.
he charges towards Ed, and so Ed begins trying to send this corpse back to hell, wielding Lorraine's rosary, chanting his usual "Go back to hell" demon script that he uses. When suddenly the scene changes, Ed was actually holding a knife and was about to attack Lorraine, but Drew stopped him just in time.
Mm.
So we see that the occultist is working her magic. And that makes Ed realize that there must really be a totem somewhere in the house. And he starts tearing through everything. When he gets to his office, Lorraine notices some dead flowers in a vase and asks Drew about it. And he says, "Oh, they arrived yesterday and they were alive when I got them." What do you think was in this vase? A totem. Okay. So at this point, the team comes up with a plan. Lorraine will have the take the book that Drew found and have it translated. Debbie is going to go meet up with Father Newman and be with Arnie at the prison, and Drew and Ed are going to go through the case files. Now, Lorraine states that the occultist is more active at night, and it appears to be daytime. So they should have time to do what they need to do, right? No, because everything they do next takes place at the dead of night. And I don't know what they did all day, but they had no urgency because it was light outside. Like it was like 3 p.m. and the next couple scenes are nighttime,
She's
like
like,
8.
better take a nap now
Right.
before. Yeah, I don't know.
There
I
was
don't
there was
know.
like no urgency with that.
I don't know what happened.
Now, I don't know what kind of prison allows people to just sit in the infirmary with inmates, but this one does because
Yeah.
Debbie is able to sit next to Arnie while he's sedated and restrained to a bed. And Father Newman is there as well. And he does tell her that Arnie's sedation should be wearing off soon because they stopped giving him the medicine. Now, while Lorraine is driving in the dark, like I said, they waited all day, driving in the dark to have the book translated, Drew and Ed make a connection between him, the Glassels, and Jessica. They all live or went to school very close to each other. So that tells Ed that the occultist has to live in the area. And once he figures out the location based on Lorraine's clues from earlier, the muffled train, the cold, and the water dripping, he seems to know where the woman might be. So he gets up to leave. He tells Drew to call the police. And as viewers, we're not told where, but Drew knows. And by the rules of horror movies, you should already know where. Okay. You should also be making this connection because the rules of horror movies will tell you this. Okay.
Yeah,
So as Drew is calling the police, the camera pans to a bottle of pills forgotten by Ed. Okay.
again,
Again.
typical.
Yes.
Sorry.
So Lorraine shows up at Kastner's house, okay, to ask him to help her translate the text. And he invites her in and immediately locks the doors, which is weird.
From
Okay.
the inside.
Yeah, with a key, just locks the door.
Yeah.
So he tells Lorraine that the curse needs 3 victims to be complete: the child, the lover, and the man of God. So David, Arnie, and Ed. And initially, Jessica was intended to be the lover, but something must have went wrong. So Arnie was replaced, I'm assuming, by replaces Jessica. And that's weird because if it had to be red rum and unaliving,
Yeah.
like I would assume that with Jessica falling off a cliff, it seems like unaliving, but
I was just
maybe
thinking
it
that.
wasn't.
I'm like, it doesn't count? Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
So it's weird because at that point, they could have just went on to the man of God part, but I don't
She
know.
didn't like that one. She said,
No,
no, no. Do it
no.
over.
So Creepy Kastner then takes the keys he used to lock Lorraine into the house and asks her to follow him. And she does hesitate because I think she's starting to get the ick again. She's kind of looking around. And yeah. So as it is,
I was
you want
gonna
to say
say
something?
I don't know if she noticed that he locked the door from the inside.
No, I don't think she did
I
either.
don't think
Even though
she
you
did.
could hear that loud ass click, it was like click, 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 click.
Yeah,
But she
it was one of
didn't.
those big. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. She still had a little bit of hesitation going down with him because he's like, "Come with me, I have to show you something in his dungeon."
And he
Um,
walks off, and she's still sitting there. But I mean, it doesn't take
she's
her that
already
long to
been
follow.
down there, so I
Right.
assume that she's like, "Okay, I've already seen this," but
Yeah.
feels
So
weird.
it does.
Feels weird.
It does.
Yeah.
So as Ed is speeding down the highway, Lorraine does make her way to the basement area and calls out the Kastner. Cautiously, she descends the stairs into the very dark, and I do mean pitch black area, okay, that Kastner had taken them to before. Lorraine
God's
stands there.
library. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Lorraine stands there in the dark momentarily before Kastner just flicks a light on, and he's seated at a desk perfectly fine. Now, Kastner is a man of advanced age. And when we first watched this movie, we had some questions.
We have questions about this. So I know we're telling you this, and if you've seen the movie, you will know this. But so his room, his beautiful library full of oddities and antiques and books and whatever, it is loaded. The tables are overloaded with like fragile, like artifacts and skulls and books and everything.
And sharp edges.
Sharp edges. We had asked each other when we watched this
The first time, by the way,
the
yes.
first time, how did he get to a table in the middle of the room with no lights
Right.
and make not one sound, didn't bump anything, nothing, and just is sitting there in the dark.
In the dark for no
in
reason.
the dark for no reason.
Like just waiting for her to show up. And it's like, not to mention, I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit. He has a book that he's about to show her. How the hell did he find the book in the dark? Was it just sitting on the desk? Like, it's just really weird that he has that. And also, he's not breathing heavy because I feel like he ran over to that spot, got the book, and sat down in the dark. He didn't stub a toe.
He was like,
anything.
hold on. Okay.
Okay, hold on. Let me slide the book up a little bit. All right.
Yo, so I know that I don't think you were in this when I started this call today for all you guys to know. So if you look at my mirror behind me, you see that there's a room, it's dark, right? Before you joined, when I was coming in here, I turned off all the lights to come in here because I didn't want the light to be distracting. In my apartment, that is not overloaded with antiquities and all this kind of shit. Let me tell you, I turned off the light and I was like, oh God. And I'm tripping over stuff and it's not everywhere. So how did this man accomplish this? Right.
Yes.
With his weird, like, and this is like I said, I know how to come in. It's a clear path. I should have walked him, but I was like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah. It was weird. I'm just flabbergasted.
It was an interesting choice. Because it was something we were laughing about. Like we had questions, but we were laughing. We're like, how did he get his ass all the way
right down the steps? Because it really was, I don't think it was that much time between Lorraine standing up from where she was and going downstairs. There's about 20 stairs downstairs, and then there's a turn, and you got to turn at the right spot. Right. And then you got to go in and make a left and walk up about 10 feet to the desk, and then not hit your hip on the desk, and then sit down. And then, mind you, in the dark, find this book, place it down on the table, facing you perfectly. How the hell did he have time to do all that, not making any sound, to the point where Lorraine is standing in the dark, like, where the hell is this man?
You know what's funny is I was thinking one of those things of what if he was like, oh my God, I'm going to do something so cool right now. She's going to think I'm so cool, right? When he goes in, he's like, okay, I'm ready. And then he just waits. He has his hand on the light too.
Just waiting
for the perfect moment. And then he's like, hello.
Right.
He's like, she's gonna think I'm so cool. Like, what are you doing? It was a moment, like, it took me out of it a little bit because I was laughing. Yeah. I saw it in the theater too, and I was like, what?
Yeah, we definitely had questions. I saw it in the theater the first time too, and questions.
I think we saw it like a day apart.
Probably. Yeah, we did.
Or was it like the same day? And like we waited to talk about it till we both saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, so he starts telling the story about the Mills history and how the church used to use this place as a to store things they were afraid of or they didn't understand. And this book I'm telling you about, he opens it up, which looks like a photo album from the 1890s, and he shows Lorraine a picture of his kid, Isla.
Which also, like, if you have a room full of
no, we're calling her Isla.
Isla.
Okay.
If you have a room full of occult stuff, why are you also keeping your family photos in there?
Right. Now, he explains that Isla's mother died during childbirth, and since the church couldn't know that he was out here clapping cheeks, he raised the baby himself in secret. Yes. Okay. So again, by the rules of horror, you should already know what's going on here. You should pick it up. But if you don't,
the puzzle together.
Right. Yep. But if you don't know what's going on yet, let's continue. Okay. We're almost done. Promise.
We're almost there.
So Kastner explains that his obsession with the cult made his daughter want in on the fun. So it's at this moment that Lorraine makes the connection, and she's like, so you knew when we got here that when we asked for your help, that was your daughter and you didn't say anything? And this man just looks at her like, that's my daughter.
He's like, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like he's in denial about her because he's hoping she's going to see the light and come back to the light side.
Yeah.
But then he casually slides in that Isla used to explore the tunnels under the land, and that must be where her altar is. And he just tells her that they need to destroy it.
I'm just wondering too, like, because she doesn't live with him. Like, I
Or
think
does she? I don't
well,
know.
he kind of alluded to the fact that like she had been coming around recently.
Hmm.
Like he alluded to it. He didn't say it straight out. So, and also that's my perception, so maybe that's incorrect. But I'm like, so she living in the tunnels or like does she because I
I
don't think she stays in the house with him.
Now see, I will say this: the first time
Yes.
I watched, I assumed she lived in the house with him,
Okay, okay.
and watching it this time, I didn't imagine her living anywhere. Like, I don't know. I guess I
She's
kind of
in the
figured she was
wind.
just, yeah, maybe she was just a sewer rat, honestly,
That's what I'm thinking.
just
She's
living down there.
living with that dusty subway air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but she definitely she definitely shows up right as they're talking.
She
Because
does.
Lorraine senses her,
She
and
also has very loud heels on.
that's
And
true.
you can hear her upstairs.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, while I don't trust Kastner, he is inclined to help Lorraine get to these tunnels. So he helps her get into the secret passage. And just as he shuts the door, Isla is there and she sees him helping Lorraine. And so he sits down and somehow he gets back to that table again. It was really fast. I don't know how he walked so quickly,
He's
but
deceivingly speedy.
yes,
Yeah.
he sits back down. He's saying about how he's failed as a priest and he's getting ready to go on a soapbox rant. And Isla's like, I'm good. And she slits his throat
She's
right
like, I'm
there.
not trying to hear that right now.
Yeah.
That's so
So
cold though. Like she wasn't even like, that's my dad. She was like, I don't care. I don't
no,
care about
she's
this.
like, I'm after souls and I got shit to do.
Yeah, I'm busy.
So Lorraine navigates the passage and she does find the altar, but she can sense that Isla is coming. And the altar is really heavy and Lorraine is struggling to break it. But as she's trying to do that, Isla slinks up behind her. And at this time, who shows up? If you've been paying attention to the rules, you know that it's Ed. Because
Of
that
course.
place that Ed figured out was Kastner's house. And so he gets there and he's calling out to Lorraine and she screams back, but it's slightly muffled. So he follows the sound of her voice and he finds a grate that he needs to break open. And there just so happens to be a sledgehammer off to the side for his
How
convenience.
convenient.
Yes. Oh, look, we have a visitor.
It's Carmen. I didn't mean for her to interrupt. She just really wanted to be here. This is her first appearance. This is Carmen Sandiego, everybody. Here she is. Okay,
Oh.
anyway, please continue. We didn't mean to interrupt. So sorry.
So Lorraine is now she's running through the tunnel where while Isla is toying with her mind. She like sees double of herself and stuff. And she
That was a cool
does
sequence.
it was
It was a
because
cool
it
sequence.
was really trippy because Lorraine is like running from herself and then she's like turning around at the same time. It's really interesting. They did a really good job shooting that.
Yeah.
Um, but Isla finally traps Lorraine, knocking her to the ground, and she attempts to stab her in the eye. And she's like, open your eyes.
Look
Let
at
me
me.
see. Look at
Look
me.
at me. Yeah, it
Open
was a
your
lot.
eyes. I am the captain now. Look at me. Um,
It was giving I am the captain now.
yes. So she doesn't give in. Lorraine is not giving in, and she gets a rock and slams it against her head, at Isla's head to escape. Now, at this point, Ed finally breaks in um, and enters the caves and he's yelling for Lorraine. He does see her running towards him, only for it to be Isla. And
That
she
was very
blows,
tricky. Yeah.
it was. She like goes into a shadow, and as soon as she comes out the shadow, she's Isla and she blows some
Poof.
smoke into his face. It was very like it gives me
Huh?
like hoodoo voodoo vibes, like when they blow
Yes.
that stuff into your face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like
she
the
does that.
powder. Yep.
Yes. And this powder that she blows into his face sends him into a murderous trance. And while he starts to go full on Jack Torrance from The Shining,
I noted that too. I think that's so funny. Okay.
he almost looked like him, like the
He was.
outfit and
Well, the way he was
everything.
like going with, and he was like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He was
totally.
limping. He had the sledgehammer and he's chasing somebody. He's chasing a woman.
I
So,
literally wrote Shining-esque.
yes.
Right here, people.
So, we had the vibe. It definitely was
We
like The
had the
Shining.
vibe. Yep.
So, while he's running around like that, Isla returns to the altar to get back to Arnie. So at the hospital, Arnie starts the process of becoming fully possessed again, with his body twisting and contorting.
Making the
Um,
bone crackly sounds that
yeah,
freak me out. Like,
yeah, like a
yeah.
chiropractor session.
Oh, but
Uh,
like so extreme.
yeah, yeah, it
Ugh,
was.
I don't like it.
Uh, Father Newman is trying to begin to exorcise the demon. And this part of the movie is pretty tense because it's switching back and forth between Ed trying to kill Lorraine with the sledgehammer and Arnie. So Lorraine keeps screaming for Ed for him to remember her.
Yeah.
And he has a moment of flashing back to them when they were teens, which is why we heard that story earlier, when they met and going on the date. Now, on the other hand, Arnie is blowing out the jail's windows, causing wind and like rain and debris to blow into the room. Now, he's still restrained at this point, but it's very clear that he's going to break out these restraints pretty soon.
Yeah.
Um, Father Newman, at this point, looks like he wishes he had a different job. He is not cut out
Questioning
for
all the
this.
choices that brought him to this.
Yeah, he's like, how did
Yeah.
I get here? How did I get here?
I should have been a janitor.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
No.
So Arnie does break free and he's still contorting his body while Debbie is screaming for him to stop. And Father Newman starts reading out the Our Father. Um, Arnie levitates into the air and he has a glass shard from the window in his hand. And just when he's about to go for the jugular, Debbie grabs his hand. We then flip right back to Ed, and he has Lorraine backed against some steps. And she starts talking to him psychically, like through his brain, telling him that their love is their strength. It's not our weakness. Come back, remember me.
Right.
And she tells him to open his eyes just as he's raising a sledgehammer. Now, very conveniently, a floodlight comes on at that moment to show us that Ed is directly in front of the altar. And Lorraine dives out of the way just as Ed brings the sledgehammer down on the altar, destroying it. And this frees Ed and Arnie from the curse. So Arnie, of course, falls from the ground, and Debbie is holding him, and Ed is also looking around like, what the hell happened? Um, and so Ed helps a very cautious Lorraine up because she's like, are you you? Can I trust you?
We good?
Yeah. But he helps her up. And this is right as Isla walks into the room with a knife. But her time is up. She looks a little weather beaten at this time. She's bleeding a little bit. And her time is up though, because she promised a demon that she summoned a soul. And since her curse failed, he's now come to collect from her. So as Isla's body starts twisting unnaturally to force her into a kneeling position, the demon walks out of the shadows like her pimp, okay? And it looks like he actually looks like the demonic version of Isla,
Of her,
the
yeah.
woman that Arnie had been seeing earlier on. So the woman that he saw at the house, the one that was in the window. Um, and so this demon walks up to Isla and puts his hand on her head and like sucks the soul out of Isla, like this was a Mortal Kombat movie, and leaves her crumpled on the ground.
A crumpled mess on the floor. Yep.
And that's exactly what I wrote. A crumpled mess on the ground. That's what I wrote.
We're really on point today.
We are. We are. So everything seems fine at this point. Ed and Lorraine climb out the tunnels, but Ed starts to have one of his episodes. He's breathing heavy and clutching his chest, like, oh my God. He realizes he forgot his pills. He's like, Lorraine, I left my pills at home, baby. Oh my God. And being the wife that she is, she had one in a locket on her, like that she's wearing on her neck. So he lucked out this time. He really did.
Remember
And
your damn pills.
exactly. And of course, the police quintessentially show up right after everything happens. They're
Of course.
useless. They're
Of course.
useless, okay?
Useless.
So in the final scene of the movie, Ed places a totem in their room of cursed objects for safekeeping because they keep all creepy things in their house.
Mm-hmm.
Arnie goes off to court for murder. And the detective actually takes flowers to Jessica's memorial at the cliff, which I thought was really nice.
That was nice.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was very touching. We're not talking about Katie, who also was killed by Jessica, but we're honoring Jessica. So,
Meh.
but at the trial, the verdict for Arnie is guilty. I know y'all didn't think that he was going to get off. He killed Bruno. um,
He was guilty of manslaughter, though.
yes,
They did, because initially they had been going for the death penalty. So usually
yes,
that's like a murder one.
yes, and
Um,
yeah,
if for my true crime friends, that's like a murder, that's like a murder one. So manslaughter means no death penalty. So
absolutely.
that's the good news.
It's much nicer. So yeah, the real life Arnie Johnson was convicted on March 24th, 1981, like she said, of manslaughter. And he only did 5 years. And during that time, he and Debbie got married, and they're still married to this day, apparently. And that's
Wow.
as of 2021, because this movie came out in
Yes.
2021.
Imagine right after they're like, no, we can't do this anymore. It's over.
Yeah. So honestly, I think the most terrifying, this is me, the most terrifying part of this movie is the tape that is playing during the credits, because it's the actual
Oh,
recording of David's exorcism.
I actually couldn't
And
listen to the whole thing.
yeah, I listened to the whole thing, and you can hear him growling and snarling, and there's, people trying to talk to him, and his mother, what's creepy about it to me is his mother keeps saying, wake up, wake up. And she's like, I'm your mother, wake up. And it's just so chilling. And I
It
feel
is.
like just hearing the growling and the snarling, it that to me gave me chills. I'm getting chills right now thinking about
Me too, me too.
that. But yeah, that was like the creepiest part. So anyway, that is the end of The Conjuring. The
That's the
Devil
end of,
Made Me Do It.
yeah.
Um, what did you think of the movie? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, being a fan of the Conjuring universe, I saw most of the movies. This was not my favorite one.
Mm,
This, uh, I don't even know exactly. I can't even put my finger on exactly what it is that I didn't. Maybe it was just the story in and of itself that I wasn't too crazy about. Because like I love Patrick Wilson. I love Vera Farmiga. I know James Wan likes to use Patrick Wilson in a lot of things. Like he was in was that Astral Projection movie?
Insidious.
Yes, which I had legit nightmares about, the creepy
Red
entity.
thing.
No, the other one.
Oh,
The
oh,
it was a man, but they made it look like a
look.
scary lady.
Yeah, I know you're
You
talking
know what
about.
I
Yeah.
mean? Literally had nightmares about that for 2 weeks after I saw it. Like I would just wake up with that still frame in my head.
Oh my
For
God.
real. Yeah, yeah. Like James Wan, I know he didn't direct this, but when you said before someone else directed it, I was like,
That
I
makes
think
sense.
I think maybe that's what it is, because the
Hmm.
story for me wasn't, the other ones were better in my opinion. As a standalone movie, I think it is okay. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it. I wasn't. And just like the weird old man. I don't know. I feel like it was a departure from the other ones. And I know their movies with the Warrens are based on real cases. I know
Yeah.
that. Um, didn't love this one. Didn't love it. What do you think?
Yeah, my favorite Conjuring movie is the first Conjuring. It's to me, it's the best one. The
Yeah,
second one is okay,
it's
but
okay.
it does follow the same formula as the first one. But this one, because it is directed by Chavez, it's a total departure from the style of the
Yeah,
first two. And even, there are other movies in the franchise like Annabelle and The Curse of La Lorena, and there's some others too. There's actually 12 movies in this whole franchise. If you want to look it up, look it up. But this one
I'm
just
looking it up right now.
falls,
Go.
yeah, like the Nun too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and then there's some like standalone movies that came out, I think in 2016 as well. They were like little independent movies, I think four of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I feel like this one just didn't hit the mark. It felt very flat. There wasn't a lot of like, I will say they had parts that had really good tension. Like we talked about that morgue scene, really good
Yeah,
tension.
that was good.
Um, yeah, and even like the part where they're in the tunnels and things, that's really good. The creepiness of Kastner. There are certain parts that are really done really good, and Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, they always do a really good job um, playing Ed and Lorraine, and they have really good chemistry.
They
But
do.
the story, even though it's
Yeah.
real, this reimagining of the story just fell a little flat. And It's definitely not one of my favorite movies. It's probably in the bottom. It falls
Yeah,
behind both the Nun movies, which
I would
are not the
agree.
best either.
No, and I had high hopes for that because the nun's first appearance was in, I don't remember which other movie. Was that the second
I
Conjuring?
believe it was in the second Conjuring.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that scared the crap out of me. I watched that one with my sister, the second
Yeah.
Conjuring, and we saw the nun, and she actually was like, I was at her apartment at the time, and she was like, when you go out in the backyard, like that's what you're gonna see. And I was like, I'm not gonna leave your house if you keep saying that to me. Um, yeah, that was it. Those were disappointing to me too. But yeah, the other thing with the first one, I want to say, is that I saw that in the theater, and this movie we just watched did not scare me. It gave me a little creepies a few times, but not really scary.
Yeah.
The first Conjuring movie, when I saw it, there's that scene, and guys, if you saw this one, I'm assuming you saw the first one, so spoilers, spoilers,
This is
whatever.
from 2016 at this point, so it's
Get
almost 10 years old.
get it together. There was when there was that room or something that had like laundry hanging up. Do you remember? And then
Yes.
something came running through that. I went in the theater like this on the armrest, and I said to my cousin who was sitting next to me, I said, "Oh my God, did you hear like some lady just screams like in the theater?" And she goes, "That was you." And I was like, "It was? I didn't even know. I just went down and I apparently screamed,
Oh,
and
wow.
I blacked out. I didn't even know that I screamed." So just to give an indication of, like I said, this one wasn't scary to me, and apparently that one really was the first.
Yeah, the first one is the best one, honestly.
Yeah.
They definitely had some good scares in it, like, the hide and clap thing or whatever. That
Oh,
that freaked me out the
I forgot
most. Yeah, the
ugh.
clap thing. So,
Blech.
but yeah, this one just it falls short. I don't think that I'll be revisiting this movie. I don't rewatch movies anyway, so
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm not going to rush to rewatch this. Any scenes from it though, like I said, that one scene I think is beautifully done.
Yes.
But
No,
no.
it really was. Well, just similar to Halloween Ends, this is one I'm very happy to not watch again. Um, but I would watch a new Conjuring movie that came out if they made
Oh
a new
yeah.
one.
Oh yeah.
Even if it was directed by someone else, even if it was directed by the same guy, I would still give it a try. I feel like I'm almost like I have a sense of obligation that I need to watch it, I guess. I don't know.
I really want them to do a Tall Man movie. If you remember the Tall Man, little boy, I think it was in the second one. No, it was the first one. Um, there was like no, I think it's the second one. Either way, there's a tall man that's inside of a little thing that's spinning around, and he actually comes up out of that thing and like
Oh,
walks down the hall for a second. I would love
that sounds
to,
familiar.
I would love to see that. And there's also like a Bride story, and I don't think there was a movie for the Bride because it's not The Curse, I don't think. But anyway, um, I just want
Huh,
to see they have so many things in their menagerie of
they do.
creepy stuff. I would love to see other cases in other
Yes.
movies based on some of these items. So
I don't know if this would ever, I don't know. Like, they've done so many Amityville movies, but the Warrens did actually investigate the Amityville haunting.
yeah,
But I don't know because there were other people. They didn't do that alone, and I don't think it
no.
was super eventful. So I don't know if that would ever be an actual movie.
They actually
Um,
allude to that in the second Conjuring movie. In the very beginning
that's
of
right.
that, they're at the Amityville and then they end up going to London afterwards. So I think that's all we're going to get about the Amityville
Yeah,
thing because it
yeah.
probably wasn't that much.
It wasn't
Um,
because I did like I remember watching there was like news footage or whatever, and they had multiple people in the house because it wasn't like a specific case. They just had a bunch of people trying to figure out what was going on, if anything,
right.
and they had a bunch of people there and whatever. But yeah, they have a bunch of cases. And that's one of the reasons I wish they would give tours of their home still, which I didn't look up and I should have looked up. I'm gonna look up right now.
Yeah.
Um,
They should. They should. That would be good.
they
That'd be
seemed like
nice.
Lorraine seemed like she was a super sweet lady. Like
Yeah.
she was actually in the first one. Um, she was in the audience in the beginning when they were
Oh,
given the lecture.
okay. That's cool.
Yeah, so the Patrick and Vera as Ed and Lorraine, they were giving like a lecture to college or something,
Hmm.
and they had real Lorraine Warrens in the crowd. And
That's
she has a
nice.
very that hairdo that like hairdo, the
That bouffant.
updo, she had it her whole life. And even, I mean,
Nice.
that's just to help you pick her out. It was gray. It was completely
Hmm.
gray, but it was the same updo that she had. It was very cute. She's a
That's
very,
nice.
very cute lady.
Yeah,
Um,
she was a consultant for all the movies up until she died. So, you know, she was very involved with the process of making these movies,
yeah.
which also might be why the Devil Made Me Do It sucked, but
So it
who
says, I
knows?
didn't find the actual website, but it says Um, they were avid collectors of haunted and cursed objects, which we already know, which they kept in a special room in their home in Monroe, Connecticut. The room, known as the Occult Museum, was open to the public for tours and lectures until 2018, when it was closed due to zoning violations. Can we
Mm.
have that overruled? That is a crime. Like,
Right.
why would you do that? I wish they used to have an actual website for it. And one of the creepy things I'll tell
Yeah.
you, um, years ago, I was reading about, I was on their website reading about them on my laptop. And as I'm reading about them, a spider crawled across my screen. It was very, very creepy. I freaked out. Also, I'm terrified of spiders. Um, so that was a very scary moment that I that I had. Yeah, when you're reading
Yeah.
something real creepy and like then yeah, like
Yeah,
literally,
that's definitely creepy.
that's
That's
very
too damn
creepy.
creepy.
So what are you gonna rate this? How many bloody axes do you think
Mm.
you would give this movie?
This is this is hard. I'm going to give it 7 bloody axes, which
Yeah,
is yeah, it's kind of high for that, but I'm giving it the 7 because one, I actually really enjoy all of the cinematography in this movie. I
yeah,
think that it was shot beautifully. I think they had some really good scene setups. Locations looked really good. I also thought that I'm going to always give Ed the Vera Farmiga, Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. I'm going to always give them, you know, a point or two because their acting is always so good. I forget who they are, and I always consider them Ed and Lorraine. I don't even think about the real Ed and
yeah,
Lorraine when they show in the movies at the end. At least in this one, they show you the real Ed and Lorraine at the end.
yeah,
Um, and I'm like, who are these people?
yeah. Who are they?
So
They
yeah,
were very
so
generous. Like Patrick Wilson's a very handsome man. Also, he can
yes,
sing. Did you know that?
yes,
He was
I
in the
did.
goddamn Phantom of the Opera movie. And
Oh,
then
was he?
yeah, he was Raoul. So I'm a big musical nerd as well, people, but usually the dark and spooky ones.
The Phantom
So
of the Opera is her twist, just so y'all
yes,
know.
that's my twist. Um, but yeah, he did that in the movie version. And also I saw when I was scrolling Instagram the other day, he was just singing some Broadway song beautifully. It was unrelated to Phantom of the Opera, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, he has a beautiful
Yeah,
voice.
I've heard him sing on something. It wasn't like it was probably something random like Instagram, but I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
it
yeah,
really is shocking. And like I said, like Ed, like no, listen, you look like what you look like, your genetics, whatever. Everyone's a beautiful person, whatever. Patrick Wilson is very generous for Ed for what Ed Warren actually looked like. So
absolutely,
I'm just saying.
absolutely. So yeah, so they get some points, and honestly, the story itself is not bad. It's just that it's not a Conjuring movie, or it doesn't feel like a Conjuring movie, and honestly, it's not scary at
It's
all.
yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just like you were saying, it's flat. Like I would say lackluster.
It
Like
is, yeah, that's a good word
it's
for it.
whatever. I actually I actually wasn't sure where I was gonna fall with rating it. So I actually wrote, and I'm gonna stick with this. I wrote 6 out of 10, but then I wrote question mark. 6 out of 10 question mark. I'll stick with the 6. I'm happy with the 6. For the same reasons that we stated. There were good scenes. It was what there were some shots in specific that stand out like, wow, this is well done, but just like the story was just like
Not doing it for you.
not doing it for me, but yeah. So that's the movie. We did it. We got there.
Yes,
We did it.
we made it through another
We made it
movie.
through, and we already have a movie picked out for next episode. We're not going to tell you what it is.
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you what it is. I may have dropped a few clues
Hmm.
during this episode, maybe. And like at this point, that could be anything.
Anything.
It could be anything. Like occult, ghosts,
Demons,
Warrens. No,
ghosts.
maybe it's one of those. Maybe it's not one of those. We're gonna find out next time. Um, I do want to encourage you, as we are a fledgling podcast, to please find us on social media. We got a Facebook, we got an Instagram, we got a YouTube, which if you're watching us right now, you already know because you found your way
Yes.
over. Please follow us. Please interact with us. We're happy to chat with you. Um,
Yes. On the streaming
also,
platforms,
yes,
you
streaming.
can
If you want
give
to
us a
listen,
5-star rating on Spotify, please.
Spotify, I don't know if a lot of you guys know this because it's a little hidden. You can rate on Spotify now. I know Apple Music was doing that for a long time. Subscribe so you don't miss new episodes on those platforms. Subscribe on YouTube. We have a lot of exciting ideas and things we want to bring into life, but we need our people. We need our tribe. We need to
Yes.
find you guys and you find us. So we're
Yes.
building it. It's going to be good. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll start having more content,
oh
soon-ish.
yeah.
But right now we're bringing you the horror
The monthly,
reviews.
the horror
Yeah,
monthly reviews. Um, so yeah, everything's the Horror Ghouls. We got that on lock, so there's no numbers, no anything. The Horror Ghouls Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. What am I missing? And all of your streaming platforms. If you like to listen rather than watch, we're everywhere. Wherever you
absolutely.
like to listen to podcasts, you can find us at the Horror Ghouls.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so that's pretty much all I gotta say. Anything? Any final thoughts? My Jerry Springer final thoughts, I always like to say.
Nope. Just ready to close
Nope.
this chapter on The Devil Made Me Do It.
And never watch it again.
Nope.
All right, well that's it. You guys I was gonna
Well,
say stay creepy, stay spooky. Everyone has these taglines. We don't have
I
one yet. You
know.
have one that you want us to use. Uh
Be fiendish. I don't know.
yeah, be fiendish. Don't go to prison. Oh, I know. Um, don't put your eyes up tiny holes.
Yes, do not put your eyes on the glory hole,
Don't
Keep it away from there.
don't do
And
that.
and don't smack your feet against the ground like wet baloney.
All right. Well, talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.